Hello, and welcome to another episode of Bare Bones Wargaming, a show with no bells, no whistles, no frills, just a man, a camera, and his game. Today's episode, we are going to be taking a look at one of my favorite filler games, and quite frankly, one of my favorite quick and easy play Cold War games, Red Menace. Used to be published by White Dog Games, designed by... oh, it doesn't list it on the box. Okay, it's Robert... Hold on. I know I have the name here somewhere. R. Brent Ward. That's who is the designer. I say it's no longer published by White Dog Games because it's not. However, if you like what you see on this video, if I remember correctly, on Board Game Geek, on the game page, the designer has said you can download a print and play version of this at wargamevault.com. So, again, as always, quick overview, and let's get to it. So, this is the Cold War gone hot, but this is the Cold War gone hot with only a little bit of subs and lots of bombers. So you're not going to see any ICBMs, MRBMs, IRBMs, ICBMs, MRBMs, IRBMs, all those things. You're not going to see any of that here. No missiles except for the ones that are coming out of submarines. Okay. So basically the game works like this. Each turn, random event, Soviet bombers move. Your bombers move. You try to intercept them with your fighter planes. Shoot things down if you can, and of course then if you hit the target, you get a nice little nuclear mushroom cloud marker put there, which we will show you here in a little bit. And basically, in terms of victory, quote unquote, this game goes to the player who has 50 points first. Now, player, because you can play this two-player, there is a two-player variant. However, I don't want to mislead you here. This is a solitaire game. So, just to clear that up. Now, a couple of things here real quick before we start also is this. I'm actually not going to show you the normal gameplay on this. The normal play is you have some bomber flights set up for the Soviets, then you start to introduce new ones, and you go from there. I'm starting this one with what I like to call the Ultra Nightmare scenario. I'm starting it with a bunch of Soviet bombers in the air, and the Allies are kind of caught flat-footed, and we're going to go from there. So, with that thought in mind, here we go. So, first thing on each turn, you draw a random event out of the cup. So, random event. Oh, a big, bad random event right out of the gate. Whoo! I'm going to zero in on this because I want to show you right here. Look, right out of the gate. Dun, dun, dun. Let me bring it a little closer. There. How's that? Oh, that didn't work so well, did it? Let's try again. There we go. Right out of the gate. Soviet sub-attack. Alright. So, it's pretty much what it says. The Soviets are going to roll a die. If they get a certain number, the missile is going to fly and going to nail you right off the bat. So here we go. Oh, it is a 3 or better. Oh. This is bad. I will say this. I have played this game somewhere in the neighborhood of probably between 10 and 15 times. I've never had a Soviet sub-attack first be successful. So you're going to see stuff fly right off the bat. So, we look on the Soviet sub-attack, which is a chart off the map here. Let me zoom back out. Whoops, that was the wrong way. One of these days I'll remember which is which. Let's get back over here. And this successful Soviet sub-attack is zero in on letter A there. And what is letter A? Anchorage, Alaska. So when you get a successful attack, you go here to the nuclear warheads. And you pull one. And I pulled a 5. So bam, that spot is obliterated. And what I also like to do is I take a couple 10-sided dice and I keep track of the score at the top over here. So let me show you up here. Let me turn over this way a little bit. There you go. So there you can see the 10-sided die. The Soviets have hit the ground running. So this truly is a nightmare clobber scenario. Whew. Ouch. That's nasty. Okay. So, the only random event, quite frankly, that's nastier than that to start the game is the Soviets ASW one if they can sink your sub, because your sub comes in very handy. More about that later. Alright, now, deploy Soviet flights. Well, I've already got a bunch of Soviet flights in the air. So let me zoom in on that. I'll show you that. You can see here all these pink markers here. Pink Okamis, right? They are flights. Most of them are headed to North America. Except, there's one there, and it's headed for jolly old England. Blimey, Governor! So, we got a little bit of a problem there. So all these flights contain 3 bombers, but you don't know what types of bombers just yet. Until they are detected, you will not draw from the Soviet bomber cup. So they are drawn blindly. But they are on their way to their objectives. Now, how do we know where they're going? Well, let me show you. At the start of the game, and when you do a new flight, which I'm about to do now, you have this chart here, okay? You can see you've got a city, and then you've got targets. Now, there are markers for the game that are city markers, but I'm a guy that likes dice. Some people are dice people, some people aren't. I'm a dice guy. So what I do is I roll 12-sided die, and not pay attention to 12, because you can see there 12 is Cuba. And that's how I randomly determine the target for that. So, let's do that right now. So we're going to deploy the new Soviet flight. So this is Soviet flight. Let's see, where are we? We are on G, Soviet flight G. And what I do is I just roll 12-sided die and a 6-sided die, and I take a look at my chart. So it's an 8. So their starting city is Kamchatka, and their target, is going to be letter R. Not to sound like Sesame Street here. And where is letter R? LA, baby. They're headed for the City of Angels. So we'll put that one down there. Now, you only bring in 1 Soviet flight per turn. Unless, again, the thing I like about this game a lot is it's really flexible. You can do a lot of different things if you want to make it harder for yourself. Because the standard game, quite frankly, is pretty easy for the player to win. Which I don't object to, because at this time in history, you know, the United States did have a qualitative and quantitative edge on the Soviet Union. So that's fine. I mean, I don't have a problem with that. But if you want to make it harder in terms of game turn, you can do stuff like I'm doing here, launch a bunch of flights right off the bat. You can also go on Board Game Geek. There's some variant rules, which I'm going to use. Some of them I made up myself for the game, and I'll explain those as we need them. So we got that new flight deployed. So now we move all Soviet bombers. And all Soviet bombers move 1 space. And what I like to do is I just go from one side of the board to the other. I don't go in alphabetical order just because I find it easier just to go from one side of the board to the other. So now these red arrows here, if you see where I'm pointing, those ones are ones that force the planes to go that direction. I'm assuming it's shorter jet stream stuff maybe. Okay. So now we'll move everybody forward 1. So here come the Ruskies. Now, you may have noticed that Flight B over there, the one launching from Berlin, has arrows, but its target is London, so it will continue to go straight. That is the exception to the rule. Now, the next thing we do is we detect Soviet bombers. And let me zoom in here so I can show you what I'm talking about. So let's go over here with this flight next to the nuclear cloud. Now, see that little thing underneath that says D2? That is the early warning line that was used during the Cold War to keep an eye on things over the polar ice cap. Because, you know, one thing I did learn from geometry, I'm not really a math guy, but shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. So when Soviet bombers cross the dew line, and we have a bunch of them here, their flights are revealed. And when their flights are revealed, you go into, let me zoom back out, still working on the nuances of this all, and you go into this cup, okay? As you can see, there's a bunch of bombers in there. And for each flight, you're going to draw 3 bombers. So I'll just start over here. I'll start over here with Flight A. And then you have this cart over here. Let me move the tripod because it's hard to get all this in the shot. And let me zoom in here a little bit for you so you can see what's going on. Now this card you can reproduce and stuff. I just use a notebook because I just find it easier, and I can put like 4 or 5 of these missions on a single piece of notebook paper. But if you really like the coolness of the chart and stuff, you can use it. And all you do is you basically just go and put the bombers in the slots 1, 2, and 3 that are detected. So A was detected, C was detected. Now most of the Soviet bombers only attack at a range of 0, but there are a couple that attack at a range of 1, so be aware of that. What are my other 2 over here? Let's see, we also have E and D. So E, let's find out who they are. And last but not least, we have D. And again, I could go in alphabetical order, but I just don't care to. Alright, well these 2 guys are face up, so we'll definitely use them. And here we go. We'll put that one last. Alright, so that's the Soviet bomber formations here now. So now these guys are ones that we know who they are, where they're coming, what their strengths are. So actually, let's talk about that here. Let me zoom on a bomber here. Whoop, too close. Here we go. So you see there, first it tells you who it is, Soviet, and then the type bomber. Then it has movement points 1, range is 0, which means it needs to be right over top of the target to deliver its payload, and then A3, that's the attack number. And whenever the bomb is dropped, you roll 1 die for it, and you have to get that number or higher. So, or higher than that number, I'm sorry, is what you need to generate a hit. No, that number or higher. I was right the first time. I was pretty sure of that. You know, sometimes, when you do this kind of stuff and you want to make sure you get it right for everybody that's watching, you kind of second guess yourself at times. But I was right the first time. So on this particular bomber, I'd have to roll a 3 or better, and that would cause a hit. So, there's all my Soviet flights. They are up there, the ones that have been detected. There are more, of course, right now. And they all have their different targets. So let's swing back over to here. And back to the big picture on the map. Now, big picture situation we have right now. After we detected them, now we can intercept. Now, there are interceptor fighters. Let me show you again. I'm going to move the tripod and show you this card. Whoops. And of course, Brown's shaking. It's probably everybody scrambling at the air bases, losing their minds, being like, dude, we're under attack. If you ever see movies like By Dawn's Early Light and stuff, you know what I'm talking about? Which actually I like as far as a tense little Cold War movie. Although my favorite movie about this is probably Failsafe. Doctor Strangelove I love too, but I put that in the classification of kind of like a dark comedy. But I love Failsafe. Failsafe is awesome. So let's zoom in here on the card a little bit. Okay, now as you can see here, we got all these fighter planes. Okay, they're ready and they rearm and fuel once they're used in the turn. Then also we have the U.S. sub, which will be lurking around trying to get within range here as we go. And you see the Soviet sub attack chart. And then there's some other aircraft that can come in via random event. So, when an enemy unit is over top of a city, now it has to be a city, unless you get a particular event here. And again, we'll zoom in on one of these guys. Who's over top of a city? Here we go. Flight D is over top of City B. So let me zoom in on them. There they are. You can go ahead and commit your fighters. Now, fighters can only go to certain cities. So the U.S. can cover anywhere from letters A through B and then H through S. So basically all the blue stuff is covered by the U.S. The Canadians, our friends to the north, do the gray ones, and then of course the British have their own fighters to defend London with. But you can't engage enemy bombers until they're actually over top of a city. So now I have to check and see here, do I want to intercept? Well, obviously I'm going to try and shoot them down. That makes sense. But now how many? Now, one of the things that people say is a weakness of this game, and I agree, is the U.S. has a lot of interceptors, and as these planes lumber their way through, you can kind of pounce on them. So there's a couple things you can do here with that. And one of the rules, I believe it's, I want to make sure I'm giving credit where credit's due. I think it is user M. Kirchbaum on Board Game Geek. They came up with a great idea for interceptors, which is if you commit, and I'm going to commit 3 here. I'm going to commit 3 interceptors to try and attack this flight here. Then roll a die. If you roll that number or greater, which in this case is 3, all of them intercept. But if you roll less, let's say a 2, then one of them goes back to base, had some kind of mechanical failure, some kind of issue. Because remember, this is still early Cold War, so the technology is pretty basic. But I rolled a 6. So Everybody's here. Now, all these interceptors, let's make sure we get a good shot here. All these interceptors here for the US, as you can see, require 4 or better. So I'll roll 3 dice, trying to get a 4 or better with my F-102s. Oh, 6 and 2 ones. I only hit 1 bomber. So, good news, bad news situation here. Good news, I hit a Soviet bomber and brought it down. Bad news, only 1. Now, technically, as far as the rules go, you're supposed to pick the strongest bomber, weakest bomber, slowest bomber, something along those lines. Me, I am a fate kind of guy. Fate in terms of, I believe in friction, as Clausewitz described it. So, I always roll randomly. That's just my own prerogative. You can do what you want as well. I mean, that's the great thing about board games is, you know, if you like to try different things and you want to do things differently, you can. So, I rolled a 4. So, that means the first plane here is the one that is knocked out of the air and it is destroyed out of the game. So, first Soviet bomber taken down with more than I can think about to go. Alright, now, those US planes now will go back to their base, and at the end of the turn, they will be able to rearm and refuel. Now, one of my own personal rules I developed was this on rearming, because let's face it, I mean, technically the rules say you're supposed to move everybody back over, but let's face it, reality never works that way. So what I do is this. Anybody that needs to rearm and refuel, I roll a 6-sided die. If it's a 1, they stay there. If it's 2 through 6, they can move along. As the nuclear damage increases, I increase that die roll. So when you get 15 points of nuclear damage on either opponent, that now becomes a 1 or a 2, keeps them at base. Once you hit 30 points or higher, a 1, 2, or 3 keeps them there. Because again, once those bombs go off, EMP and all that stuff, it's going to disrupt command and control. I mean, especially like if a key city like DC or Moscow gets hit, or you know, like Omaha, Nebraska, where SAC headquarters is located, it's going to cause chaos. So that's just my own personal rule. And again, I have a rule. If you look at the game page for Red Menace on Board Game Geek and you look under variants, you'll find my thread, which I believe is entitled A Couple of Ideas I've Been Playing Around With, is what I think I call that thread. Okay, now, let's keep moving here through this sample turn. So we had a chance to intercept. Now, Soviet bomber attacks. Now we do have a Soviet bomber over B, but what is his target hex? Let's take a look here. Oh, what do you know? His target hex is B. I'm feigning surprise. I knew that most of these are going to be headed for some of these close ones here because that's why I put them all up in the air. Surprise kind of thing. Alright, so I should have maybe put all 6 interceptors on. And actually I rolled a 6, so I could have got away with that. But hey, you know, hindsight is 20/20. Okay, so now the Soviet bombers, they're over top. They will have a chance to roll. Now both of these bombers need a 3 or better. And one of them got a 6. Now, if they both have been 3 or better, it doesn't matter. You still only draw 1 mushroom cloud from the cup. Damage is damage. Obliteration is obliteration. You know, I mean, as Men at Work said, there is overkill, but that's that. Now, once the bombers drop their payload, they're done. You know, because there's not enough time in what's postulated in this game to get people to turn around and get them back loaded again, get them up in the air. So, Soviets are off to a solid start. Dang, they got 10 points on me already. Woo! But again, you know, this makes the game more challenging, and quite frankly, I like that. So, again, you know, you can do what you want, but again, that's one of the things I really like about this game is how flexible it is. It really is flexible. You really can tinker and try with lots of different ideas. There's even rules. I have them here. Hold on. Strategic deployment and scramble rules that were done by Mr. Ward and Mr. Kendall, who are the designer and the developer. So there's lots of good support for this game. It really is a fun little Cold War game. It's one of my great filler games, one of my 3F games. It gets the 3F stamp of approval for me. Fast, furious, and fun. Okay, moving on. So now, get to deploy my bombers. Now I started with 1 bomber on the map. I just did that randomly at D6. So let me zoom in here on the US a little bit. And you can see there's my 1 bomber. I've got some air defenses, and there's my sub. You can start your sub either on the East Coast, or there is an anchor symbol on the West Coast. Now the range of the sub is 4, so you got to get it close. We'll talk about the sub in a little bit. Now, you draw 3 bombers a turn. I do them blindly because, again, I'm pretending this is a scramble scenario for the U.S. side. In the basic game, you may choose which bombers you want. So let's see, what did I get here? Most U.S. bombers are movement of 1, but some are 2. So I'm going to put these 2 guys together, and they have to start in the U.S. city. And, oh, look at that. The British scrambling. Probably can't see it because of where I have it here. But the British did manage to scramble a plane into the air. They must have picked up, obviously they picked up on the Soviet bombers coming, but they don't know what's coming. So they're getting a plane up in the air too. Awesome. All right. Now, we would do Soviet or Cuba. Cuba comes in this game by a random event, by the way. We would do Soviet interceptors, but there's nobody nearby, so no worried about that. U.S. and UK. Oops, sorry. I'm sorry. I skipped. Forgot to move my bombers in all my excitement. So, again, you just move your bombers just like the Soviets do. Basically 1 space. There are a couple of U.S. bombers that move 2 spaces. Again, just look at the counter and check. Same thing with the range thing. It's so easy because most of these are like 1 movement point and they have to be over top with a range of 0, but be careful. Watch that, especially from the Soviet side. Because once you reveal those flights, you know, it's very easy to forget, oh, some of those Soviet bombers have a range of 1, so they can attack before I have a chance to even intercept them, which sucks from the American perspective, but hey, you know, that's life. Okay, so I moved. No interceptors, no bomb attacks, a sub. Now the sub has 2 choices every turn. You can either A, attack with it, and again, we have, oops, I'm sorry, we have a chart over here that keeps track of how many missiles are available, or you can move it 1 space. Well, I'm not within range, I'm not within 4 hexes, so I'm going to slowly start to work my sub up. And it takes about 6 turns to get it into range, honestly, which can be nerve-wracking turns because one of these random event markers is a Soviet ASW deal. Now, resetting interceptors, well, I only have to do that with 3 U.S. interceptors. So I roll 3 dice, and no 1s. So everybody's available again, ready to rock and roll. And that's the sample turn. That's it. You check for the end game. End game comes if somebody reaches 50. Nobody has. But again, the Soviets are out of the gate strongly with 10 points. So, as you can tell, I really am a guy that likes to mix things up, so to speak. So the next random event is a 5. So air refueling is allowed for both sides. Okay. Now, those are counters that can come into the game, and I will go ahead and bring them into the game, and I will have to check and see what they do, because again, you don't get these every game. So when I was doing my prepping game, if you will, for this, I did not draw this random event when I was doing my warm-up game, my refresher game, because before I show you guys the game, no matter how recently I've played it, I usually do 1 play myself, just to kind of, you know, get a handle on things again and go, oh yeah, this is the kind of thing that happens, that sort of thing and stuff, too. So that way, I don't mislead anybody on things. Because again, I'm trying to show you what the game is like and how it flows and how it plays. So let's take a look at this together. Okay. So, what does that mean? Capabilities. They don't move. They have to be assigned to an airbase. So I'm just going to assign them to DC and Moscow for fun, just to make things fast and furious and easy. We did that. Here we go. Refueling. So the U.S. bombers can add 1 to their movement value. Cool. Soviets, this allows interceptors 1 extra attack roll. Woo! On the first bomber they attack a turn. Ouch. Wow. Okay, so that's kind of nasty. I need to blow up Moscow, clearly, as quickly as I can. Whew. Alright. So, what I'm going to do here, because again, I don't like my videos to run too long. So what I think I'll do here is, now that I've kind of showed you how this works, and again, I highly recommend, and I'm using this one for this game for obvious reasons. Some of you probably recognize this from the Nuclear War series. It's a glow-in-the-dark die. I love it. I'm going to use it to mark on my turn record chart where I'm at, which is deploy Soviet bombers. Because I do have, I really haven't shown you this because it's pretty messy, I'm not going to lie. But you know what they say, right? Messy table, sign of a busy mind. That's definitely me. So I always have a space over here to the side. I have this nice big white table that I put charts and things on. And as you can see, I just use my little glow-in-the-dark nuke die, my skull die, to mark where I left off. And again, if you're a solo player like I am, I highly recommend you come up with something like that. So what I'll do is this. I will play a few turns off camera. We'll get some more planes moving, potentially some more mushroom clouds. And maybe I'll come back to you when my sub is within range. And we'll kind of pick up from there so you can see what the sub attack is like. Of course, that's provided it still exists with the random events, we shall see. So hopefully, though, this gives you an idea of how the game is played and how it feels as far as everything goes. And again, this start is not typical for the Soviets. This is just me playing my Ultra Nightmare scenario. Kind of reminds me of that story, I think it was the mid-70s, where some guy at NORAD overnight was like at the 2 a.m. shift, right? And he's sitting there, and all of a sudden, his screen lights up like a Christmas tree. Massive Soviet attack. Missiles coming in all over the place. And he just, of course, you know, just imagine, the guy's probably dozing a little bit, just kind of being like, okay. And then, bam, all this comes, right? So, you know, what do? Well, he went ahead and rather than just start the procedure, you know, for stuff that we did, he quickly checked around, called people and stuff, say, are you guys picking up anything on your radar? Anybody got anything here? And after doing all that, guess what? Turns out, somehow, accidentally, there was a computer malfunction. And the computer had uploaded and started running a program that was used to train the guys. And it was the program that was the Soviet nightmare scenario attack, was what he was seeing on the screen. So, lucky for all of us, that guy was not just decided, was like, oh shoot, look what's on my screen, and went, you know, lost it, and panicked. He did some phone calls, checked with some people and stuff to make sure, hey, this is legit, this is real, this is the done deal. And, yeah, I mean, you know, saved us a lot of aggravation. I forget what book I read that in. I read that years ago when I was teaching. I used to use that as a story with my students. Because one thing students like, they like the stories when it comes to history. If you want to hook kids on history, you need lots and lots of stories because that's where the meat is. Get the story out there, then you can do the analysis. Sorry, didn't mean to get off on a tangent there. So, I will come back to you once I've played a few more turns, move some things into position, show you the game, another turn of the game when it's progressed a little bit further along. So, Tim Korchnoi from Bare Bones Wargaming, and I'll see you when we're a little further along. Hopefully I'll have a few mushroom clouds on the board, although it's going to take some time. As you can see, I'm having trouble scrambling my bombers, although that area refueling will help. And keep your fingers crossed nothing happens to my sub, because the sub is just, the sub is a game changer in this contest here. So, until then, keep your fingers crossed, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.